How you doing? www.andrewmarkmusic.com. On Rand and Marx. Yes, the philosophies of the 20th century objectivist Ayn Rand and the 19th century socialist, Marxist, communist Karl Marx. I think I'll start at the end here. It seems to me that in China right now, these two philosophies are being merged. So you have the technocrats, the elite technocrats in China, creating an elite culture of Randians who are narcissistic, selfish, materialistic, don't care about anything but themselves, embedded within, the 70, 80, 90-year-old Marxist cultural experiment of communism, which is the foundation of what's happening here. So you have complete top-down control on a broad scale, totalitarianism, merged with the new capitalist Randian ethic. And one of the first things I said on the internet was, will the West affect China, or will China affect the West? And it's an interesting question because it's kind of a bit of both. China right now is completely embedded within Western thought, and particularly Jewish thought. Both Marx and Rand were Jewish thinkers. So the whole Chinese experiment right now is embedded with Jewish thought. So let's back up now to the beginning of this video. But first I want to say where this experiment is leading us. My own feeling is it's not leading us to a good place. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's my own feeling. So let's go back now. Marx. Well, I'm not a Marxist. I believe that he was delusional when it comes to human nature. There's never going to be a time where the elites are going to give up their class and their privilege. It's just not going to happen. It's not in human nature. And there's never going to be a time where the proletariat and the workers are going to be able to defeat them. Especially as the elites get more and more technology, this pipe dream that he had is less and less tenable. So it's, in my opinion, it's an impossibility now. They are so embedded within technology, the elites, that it's impossible for any large-scale proletariat group to rise up and defeat them. So in that regard, I do believe, he's wrong and delusional. Now, he's a strict materialist, although he was influenced by the dialectics of Hegel, the German philosopher. What do I have to say on that issue? I personally believe that the whole movement of since the Enlightenment in the West has led to human beings becoming objects. Which is fine in itself until that philosophy gets, transferred into economics. And the end result of this worldview, materialism, is human beings are nothing more than objects of financial exploitation. This is a reductionism that I find exceedingly problematic. I'm not going to get into who he was as a person. Extraordinarily, problematic. Not the issue of this. Rand, she has some basic premises of philosophy correct. She's clear about it. She's got it right. But only two of them, one or two of them, three at the most. Everything past that she espouses is just a matter of personal values. And in my opinion, she's wrong in her value assessments. She couldn't be more wrong. And again, a strict materialist. It's not surprising to me that the end result again of her thinking, a materialist thinking, is to reduce humans of objects of exploitation. And in her particular philosophy, elitist, and everybody else is subhuman, frankly less intelligent. Right, Kenny? So the despairing aspect of Rand to me is how she's taken over the West as far as her philosophies being popularized into institutions of power. Paul Ryan, well, the whole Republican oligarchy, and their disdain for the subhumans that they rule over now. Where do we go from here? What I'm espousing is a compromise between these two philosophies. Now, I have to call on Adam Smith here, who, as far as my knowledge, was very aware of capitalism being overrun by the oligarchs, by being taken over by corporate oligarchy, and his concern has come to fruition. So I would call upon the original tenets of Adam Smith as a tonic for Rand and for culture. If Adam Smith saw what was happening today, he would be extraordinarily disturbed by it, as any good person of conscience should be. Secondly, both Rand and Marx lived in an age where there was less than 1 billion people on the planet, or thereabouts, maybe more by the time of Rand, and seemingly unending resources. The future looked wide open. This is not the case today. I've been arguing for years now that both of these thinkers should be, abandoned and dismissed and replaced with some kind of new mode of doing things. And certainly in 2000 I came across integral theory, and that's an attempt to do that. And it suffers from some of the same pathologies that Rand did, especially Rand's reluctance to debate other intellectuals that had differing opinions. Specifically, Ken Wilber's, pulled the same tactic, the same gambit. So it's extraordinarily problematic, even integral theory, although I still consider Gene Gebser's view on integral theory quite compelling. Now, myself, what I'm arguing for, as far as a compromise, a modern compromise, I'm calling the global commons civilization. And this is because of all the issues today about sustainability, limits to growth, that there is no replacement to scale fossil fuels in the next 100 years at this time. It's quite likely that the economics of fossil fuels is going to get more and more problematic in the next century. I think we should act now rather than having changes forced upon us, especially when you factor in, atmospheric pollution. In my opinion, it would be more of a pragmatic move to make changes now. And in the global commons civilization that I'm espousing, one of the primary premises is to give as many people as much choice as possible. Now, I understand that this isn't possible, but it's more possible than just denying everybody choice and having a top-down dictatorship of the new Chinese model, which is, again, a combination of Marx and Rand, which I see being extraordinarily problematic in the next 50 years. So what I'm espousing is, in the compromise, is that first and foremost, the currency itself be socialized, because the fiat fractional reserve system is an elitist pyramid scheme that has made very few people extraordinarily wealthy and indebted most everyone else. So, in my opinion, that has to be somehow scaled back or stopped. My own feeling is that if this were possible, it would be sort of a 70-30, 20-80 split, so that a stripped-down capitalist system would be 2-3 billion people, where I think it should have been capped anyway, and became unsustainable. And then over the next 50 years, 5 to 7, 8 billion people practicing a global commons way of living, which would be funded by a social currency, public utility currency like positivemoney.org. Now, the problem with Rand, as far as her view of subhumans, is her cynicism and misanthropy that humans can't be taught and humans can't learn. And I believe that this is just a horrible, horrible fallacy that she's promoted. And to correct that in this culture that I'm proposing would be to educate people right from the get-go about the most important things about life, which is, a relationship to the earth, how to become self-sufficient with food again, being taught about economics from kindergarten, being taught about Marx from kindergarten, being taught about Adam Smith and Rand from a very early age, as much as children, that we could, distill the concepts to instill in children, so that we don't have economic illiteracy, and that we don't have ecological illiteracy. One of my criticisms with the mindless attempts at social welfare is you can't just give uneducated people money and expect to solve anything. You have to have a global commons currency working along with a new education system that is different than the one the Rockefellers created to create cogs in the machine for, the oligarchs. So you would have to take housing off the capitalist market, the speculation on housing, which none of it's sustainable right now. This eventually, in the next 50 years, this is all going to crash. So what I'm saying is we should not wait for the crash to happen, but we will, and it will be disastrous. But hopefully this video gets played at some point, and it proves that there were people that had solutions to this, even though they're dismissed. And I get that I'm dismissed for various reasons, not the least of which is because I'm, WASP. A thinking WASP who shall not be listened to. So there's other thinkers on the planet of a certain culture who have taken over thought. And I'm not bitter about that. I think they're great thinkers, but it's not without a shadow, and it's not without extraordinarily complex problems created by it. So a currency, homes, food, teach people how to become, self-producing again. Education, and then healthcare should be a human right. You need healthy people, and there's a direct correlation between healthy people and food and the type of food that people eat. So these are what I'm calling the four pillars: the compromise between Rand and Marx, the compromise between viewing most people on this planet as subhuman. Who else used the term subhuman? Oh, I believe it was the Nazis. Yet Rand, a Jewish person, declares most people subhuman. That's interesting. There are people out there like TJ who make mockery of the term Jewish Nazi. But I think Ayn Rand encapsulates it within her philosophy. So I'm not really understanding the dismissal and disdain for the idea. I think it's perfectly consistent. So in the end, the global commons civilization, the compromise between, Marx and Adam Smith that I'm proposing, does have an element of spirituality involved in it. This is not strictly materialist. I call it natural spiritualism. So it isn't based on, speculative superstition when it comes to metaphysics. It's just acknowledging that there is a spiritual component if we define spirituality about what is best for the most amount of people on this planet. That is, what I would define spirituality as. So what is best for the capitalists? Well, a new capitalist system where they could continue to be capitalists, but understanding that there are limits to what their system and what they want as a free will choice can give them. So we would have to find a way to allow them to practice their capitalism, but in a sustainable manner. And then a voluntary way of life in dichotomous relationship to that, where people are volunteering to get, say, $24,000 of this public utility money and to have a home that isn't open to speculation. They can still be owned and traded. So I'm not advocating against private property, but the speculation would end. So say over 120 years of someone's life, that those houses, that property doesn't really go up too much. So inflation under the global commons would be over 120 years instead of over a year. You see inflation rates now are out of control. And one of the things that I find completely duplicitous is economists don't talk about the inflation rate of housing. They seem to dismiss it in their metrics that the enormous rate of inflation with housing just doesn't seem to exist, within their analysis, which is quite curious. I'm not really understanding why they would dismiss such an obvious, untenable, unsustainable form of inflation. So anyway, that is a brief synopsis of a very complex subject. And it's one of the last things I'll say is it's interesting how the materialists split themselves up in a very problematic hostile relationship between atheist Marxists and atheist Randians. It seems there's nothing human beings can do to get along. Anyway, I'm proposing a compromise and a solution to this. Am I naive? Do I think what I'm saying is going to happen? Of course not. Any change that is going to happen will happen because the present policies will lead to unbelievable devastation. And at that point, human beings will be forced to change. But, we have will, and my will is to do these videos as a legacy of thought, that there were people thinking in ways that were not, completely consistent with common thought as far as left and right dichotomies. Anyway, www.andrewmarkmusic.com. Peace out, peace the fuck out. Oh yes, by the way, which one do you think represents Ayn Rand? Black and white. I think it's obvious. Extraordinary negative archetype, in my opinion, as far as female influence. Oh yes, well, I should add here that in the end, Rand capitulated to socialism, and she got very sick and accepted, the public purse when it came push to shove. So, look at this is the sort of view that these people have, and I'm going to be a little bit, problematic here, but I'm going to wake up in the morning on the bed that I built by myself, in the house that I built by myself, and if I use anything other than my feet, the vehicle I built by myself, with all the materials I built by myself, to get to the job that I'm going to create myself and exploit everybody, but for only myself. And okay, so you get the basic idea. This kind of extreme libertarianism is just rubbish. The fact is, we live in a collective. So what I'm espousing is a compromise between individualism and collectivism. All right, pretty fucking simple, really, and commonsensical.